Welcome to Divergent Wisdom Broadcast, where curiosity reveals the endless aspects of convergence between science and spirituality. Join me, Doc Sibson, as we explore new perspectives with our guests, bridging the space between worlds to discover paradigm-shifting common ground. It's time to get rebellious. Hello, Cosmic Family. I am so glad that you're here with me on Divergent Wisdom Broadcast today. And I wanted to take a moment before we jump into the episode to let you know that Luminosity, my mentorship program, is now live and open for your viewing and hopefully joining pleasure. So if you have appreciated the material that we've covered so far on the podcast and would like to learn more about how you can work with me in this tailored program, then head on over to the website, which is www.docsibson.com.au, spelled DOCSIBSON. And I look forward to seeing you there. Now on to our episode. Hello, my fabulous Divergenauts. Thank you for joining me on a Divergent Wisdom Broadcast today. I am your host, Dr. Sarah Sibson, and I am very glad to have you here. And this is a episode that has felt a little disjointed in my mind as I've been thinking about how I'd like to cover things today. So hopefully it doesn't end up too scattered for you. But the intent is to talk about the process of incorporation. And what I mean by that is there have been a number of elements that we've talked about so far that we're going through the process of inspecting and learning more about and aiming to understand better about ourselves. And along the way, I realized that I've been saying things that we decide that we want to keep and what we don't want to keep. And I think this is a critical distinction for me to make today about what I mean by all of that, and also kind of how that looks, I guess. The way that we move through the process to a point of completion, a place that can feel finished, at least for the time being, till the next moment comes up where you get a new thing that you get to look at. And the reason I feel it's so important to talk about incorporation is because this space can very easily cross into bypassing and rejecting parts of ourselves and not fully experiencing the breadth of who we are as a human. And I don't want there to be any confusion about my intent and my own experience of all of that and what I understand to be true about the healthy way that we can move through this and come out with a more complete understanding of ourselves rather than a shell that has chunks missing and doesn't even resemble a full human anymore. So I think the place to start is that when we're moving through a thought or a story or a belief that those have created or a behavior or any of those things that we talked about previously, as you're taking the time to inspect it consciously, there will be elements that we don't like. That's just human nature across the board, no matter who we're talking about. And if you say that you love absolutely every aspect of yourself, no matter what, then I think you're either lying, delusional, or somehow some kind of highly advanced ascended being that just stumbled into the wrong reality? Like, pretty much everyone's got stuff that we don't love about ourselves. And the risk of approaching this process from the mindset of, I'm just getting rid of it, I'm chucking it out, don't like it anymore, so I'm not going to have it, is that it exists for a reason. And it may be that at the point that that part of you developed, it was serving a purpose. Chances are it was serving a purpose. And if we don't allow ourselves the opportunity to go into the full depth of that, into the full learning and the rich understanding that we can gain from it, then what we're doing is discarding that really hard fought, often hard won opportunity for insight. And I don't know about you, but the more I've been able to frame these things from that perspective, the less difficult it's been to try and incorporate them with acceptance instead. Because ultimately, that's where we would like to be when you discover something that you don't want to keep as a thing that you keep playing over, is recognition for what it has done for you so far. Even if it's something small, a teeny tiny little silver lining that is like not even all the way around the cloud, even if it is that, there's something that has done for us. And it is that contrast and that ability to find something beneficial, even if it's not positive, that has come out of even the deepest, darkest, most horrible experiences, is the way that we are able to grow and move past them, and the way that we can become wiser and more able to approach difficult scenarios in our lives that it has prepared us for. I am not saying that those horrible things should have happened to you, or should have happened to me, or should have happened to anybody. I know this can be a really precarious conversation to move through, because there are all kinds of assumptions that get made about what it means when we talk about the lessons that can be gained from really difficult situations and experiences. And I know there are plenty of people that, if they are presented with the question of, would you do it over again? They say, no, absolutely not. And that's okay. That's okay if that's your answer. That's your answer. It's your life. Who's to say any different? I don't think there are any situations or experiences where I would say that anymore. But there were some for quite a while that if someone had given me a magic wand or a time machine and I could have gone back and undone them, 100% would have said yes, without hesitation. So your answer to that can also change depending on where you are and what your life has been like since, and how you feel differently about your past based on new experience. That's the opportunity that this is giving us, is the chance to see those things as we work through the process. And instead of what I think has kind of been the general messaging from a lot of different corners of this discussion, is to just discard it, throw it in the bin, be done with it once you've spotted it somewhere. And I can see why that happens. Look, I totally understand that. The instinct is to not want to deal with it any longer than you have to, because now you've found it. And for the longest time, it was hiding unaware in your subconscious. And it can feel like a knee jerk almost to just kind of throw it away. But if you feel capable or supported or willing to try it out and find out, then I would invite you to instead pause a little bit longer and see if you can find that benefit, that lesson, that wisdom that comes with it. Because there will always be something, no matter how small. And it may just be that you don't ever want to do that again. And that's fine. That's a lesson. It's an important lesson. That's what a lot of our childhood is about, is trying things out and deciding, oh, that was a really terrible decision. I'm not doing it ever again. So it can also be the thing that you glean from parts of this process that you are choosing not to continue using going forward. And when you have come to that point where you've learned what you feel able to learn from it and are deciding to be done, then the thing that I have found most liberating, I guess, is to imagine your acceptance and your, I don't necessarily want to say embracing of it because that can feel too hard sometimes, but just the acceptance, I think, is where I'll land. And incorporating it into your concept of who you have been that has brought you to the moment you're in now. And having it be a piece of that story, a piece of that artwork that has been painted, and having it be okay that it exists. Just purely okay. That's all. Not going to be throwing it a party, not going to be celebrating, trauma and terror and horribleness. It's just coming to a place of purely accepting its existence. And when and if you're able to do that, then it loses its power over you. And that is a place that I really wish for every single one of you listening to this, is the ability to do these hard things, look at these hard experiences and narratives you've been telling yourself and concepts about who you are based on them, and taking back the control and the power that they have had over you and keeping it for yourself. And that makes all of this crappy stuff worth it. Then by the crappy stuff, I mean doing all the hard work of unpacking it all. And make no mistake, if you have somehow reached this far and thought that this might be a cakewalk, well, I got news for you. Either you're one of those people I was talking about before that's landed in the wrong reality, or you're a human. Especially if you're a spicy human, then this is going to be a really, really hefty stack of shit to shovel for a while. And that doesn't necessarily sound appealing, which is why I don't start there. But it's important to understand that it is likely to be difficult at times. And other times, as you're working through the layers of something familiar, say it's a particular experience that you've had and there are components that you've looked at before and done that incorporation with and taken back your power from, so you feel more able to approach other parts of that experience and the areas that it may still hold some power, then that revisiting and doing that next layer may not be as hard as the first time around because you've already done some of the really tough stuff. And it's not to say that your experience is going to be the same every time you approach a new situation. Maybe the first layer is super smooth and you're like, oh, sweet, sorted that one out real easy. I must be a badass. I'm getting really good at this. And then if you're like me and fall into that trap, you later determine that that was just the low-hanging fruit and you get to do some harder stuff next. That's the joy and the mystery of life, is not knowing which one of those it might be. But what you can hold on to as you're doing that is that in every single instance, I cannot think of a single one yet, honest truth, that I have regretted doing that for. It's not to promise that on the other side it's all going to be rainbows and unicorns and puppies. It is just to say that this sense of knowing yourself better, feeling more of the genuine you, feeling more empowered to continue to choose those things has not ever been a bad thing for me. I would hazard a guess, if you're choosing to do this yourself, that that question would also be answered the same way. I would just like to summarize by saying that the incorporation process is a crucial step in all of this as you explore who you are. And as you successfully incorporate and include and accept these parts of you that you don't want to keep using moving forward, then that really makes space for all of the parts that you're rediscovering or newly discovering about yourself that you do really love, that you do really want to invest in and grow and nurture. So that's another benefit. And I will leave that thought there with you to ponder a bit more until the next time we get together. I will see you then. Thank you for expanding with us on Divergent Wisdom Broadcast. We deeply appreciate the contribution of your time and attention to our shared adventure. If today's discussion resonated with you, we'd love to hear your thoughts, revelations, and experiences in the comments. Please take a moment to subscribe and share us with your cosmic crew. And remember, we're all made of the same stardust.